Hello everybody, welcome back to my Mon review series. In this episode, I'm going to be going over the Arcanine. Now, Arcanine's interesting in a sense that it used to kind of be the top at what it did, but it's kind of since been outclassed in lots of ways. Now, it's a fire type, snoozing type as well, pretty 100% common for fire types at the current moment. It's the case for its pre-evolution as well, Growlithe. The Arcanine only exists at Top Hollow if you're looking to catch it, or looking to build up candies for it. I wouldn't recommend catching it as an Arcanine because it is that skill. It does have that skill specialty, so you should be catching it at base to get those free skill levels and that extra inventory, because that's pretty big on skill specialists. Now, the Growlithe also exists at Cyan Beach, but if you're looking to get the if you want to catch it, you can go to any of these three locations, Greengrass, Cyan, or Top. But if you want to farm the candies, Top is your preferred location. Now, it's pretty easy to evolve the Arcanine. It only takes 80 candies and a Firestone. You get a couple Firestones from some of the badges, I want to say. So it's competing currently with the Flareon. And the Ninetales. So I'd recommend more using your Firestone on the Ninetales because the Arcanine is kind of mid in general, but let's kind of get into why I think it's not the best option necessarily. So it's got the skill specialty, and the big thing about the skill specialty is you want to know what the skill is and what its trigger rate is. Now, it's got a 4.9% skill trigger rate, which is actually pretty high, but its skill is Extra Helpful S, which, generally speaking, this skill, it's not going, unless you have the right team for it, it's not really producing that much more value than something like Ingredient Magnet is. Or unless you have like the perfect mons to pair with it. The problem is whenever you run this skill, the skill specialist, especially since they recently made it so that ever since they added double skill banking, they also made it that you can't swap your team out before activating a Pokemon skill, because doing so will lose you the skill proc. Because of that, you're most likely running it alongside an Energy for Everyone Pokemon. That's 2 skill specialists on the team. And this skill works best with Pokemon with the Berry specialty or the Ingredient specialty. So having 2 skill specialists on the team when you activate it is going to mean that every time there's a 2 in 5 chance that a lot of the value in this skill just gets wasted by being used on a skill specialist. So, generally speaking, I wouldn't recommend the Extra Helpful. What it used to be used for was overstacking, which I'll get to overstacking a bit more when we get to the Legendary Beasts. But basically, this skill has been tremendously power crept and is pretty much completely replaced by the presence of the Legendary Beasts. Now, if you're a brand new player and you're just joining after the Suicune event, unfortunately it's going to be very difficult to get yourself a Pokemon with the Help Boost, I think is what the skill's called, the better version of this. But if you can get one of them, they're just strictly better. This might be a fine option prior to that. But as you can see here, the Arcanine actually procs less per day than the Gallade by a pretty significant amount. Almost a whole extra time less per day without any sub-skills or nature. So it's pretty rare that I would ever recommend the Arcanine. Now, something about the Arcanine that has the advantage of the Gallade is that Gallade is only available after Lapis Lakeside is unlocked, and also Gallade would be competing with your Gardevoir for candies, and Gardevoir is one of the most valuable Pokemon in this game. So maybe that's the usage for Arcanine. It's got that Extra Helpful, which is kind of nice, not perfect. It's got a really low ingredient rate, actually, so you're not really looking at the ingredients on this guy whatsoever. It's got an inventory of 16. That's a little bit on the lower end for a single stage Pokemon because it's only going to get that 5 boost once from evolution, so it's going to max out at 21. After good sleep ribbons, it'll eventually be at 29, but that's one of the few Pokemon that its inventory without any sub skills maxes sub 30. its speed is actually decently fast. It's got a decently fast speed with 41 minutes and 40 seconds. And the Lepa Berry is kind of a mid-tier value berry, and one of the best at top, specifically. Now, where I think this guy does well is if you catch one that has the Berry Finding S, and you don't have a Ninetales, or even if you want to run a full fire team minus the energy for everyone mon. So let's say you want to run Entei, you want to run Typhlosion, Ninetales, and then an energy for everyone Pokemon. I think, as of right now, I think Arcanine is the best option for that 4th slot, just because it can get a little extra stacks for you for the overstacking. And but I highly recommend only doing that if it has the Berry Finding S, because with overstacking berries, you want to make sure that everything has the Berry Finding S, because it's just making sure that you're increasing the amount that each proc is getting. So, its ingredients: herb as an A ingredient, sausage as a B, milk as a C. It's interesting because there aren't that many Pokemon that produce milk, and this 5 proc of milk is quite high. But with an ingredient rate this low, and only getting milk 1 every 3 procs, you're not really going to be getting that much in the end. If you plug it in as level 60, as you can see here, you're only getting about 16, 17 milk per day. Milk is an ingredient that you don't need a whole lot of, but that's even lower than a lot of the milk requirements that are out there. So you're really not looking at these ingredients. There's some nice synergy between the herbs and sausage, particularly for curries. Actually, it's really just for one curry, the corn keema curry. So if you find that you're making this dish and you want to make this dish, the Arcanine might supplement your ingredient specialists kind of nicely if they're not producing quite enough herbs or quite enough sausage. But you're not looking to make this dish with an Arcanine, even in the slightest. The Arcanine, I don't even think can make enough in a day for just the amount of herbs, even with a mono list, probably. Let's see. Where's the... Oh, mono list produces 23.5. It takes 27 for one meal, so it can't even make a third of what's required, even with the completely mono herb list. So, don't be looking at the ingredients on this guy. It's kind of nice, but if it happens to work out, it happens to work out, but you're really looking for skill triggers, as he's a skill specialist. So, that's about everything I have to say about the Arcanine, and I hope you have enjoyed.